body and say, there it is, there's digestion. Instead, you need to recognize that there are several components of digestion working together to get the job done. For example, the muscles in your jaw clench your teeth, and this turns food into something you can swallow. Then your throat uses smooth muscles to safely transfer the food down to your gut. In your gut, your stomach releases enzymes that break down the food, and then your intestines further break it down and absorb the nutrients. And of course, your liver, pancreas, and gallbladder get involved, but you get the idea. There's no one piece that we call digestion. It's a system. You should think about language in the same way. Language has many parts, and each part needs to do its thing to get the job done. Now, there's actually a very important way that language is not like digestion, and I'll return to that near the end of my lecture. So let's try to understand this system. There are 5 major components of language, and understanding them individually will help you understand how they work together. The components are syntax, semantics, morphology, phonetics, and pragmatics. Just a quick note, I'll sometimes refer to these as levels, and as a general rule, you can think about lower levels comprising smaller and simpler components, and higher levels containing larger and more complex ones. Now, let's approach each component by focusing on the following utterance. I'm getting really hot. Okay, let's take this utterance and break it down. Starting at the sentence level, we have syntax. This component primarily concerns the rules for how a language orders words in a sentence. In English, we often start with a subject and then follow with a verb, as in I and then am getting. Things are different in other languages. I'm currently trying to learn Japanese, and if I were to say this in Japan, I might say, Sugoku atsuku natta, which roughly translates into, really hot has become. Note that the subject has been dropped completely, and now the verb is at the end of the sentence instead of the middle. Let's take another sentence. Maybe it's getting hot because the child opened the door. Note the structure of this sentence, which is the default in English. Subject, child, verb, opened, object, door. This is called an SVO syntax. Just over 40% of all languages conform to this SVO pattern. In Spanish and German and Mandarin are some other well-known examples. However, other languages order sentences differently. In Japanese, you would say, Kodomo ga doa o aketa. That translates more literally as, child door open. This is called an SOV language, subject, object, verb. The majority of the world's languages, about 44%, are SOV, and Turkish and Hindi are some other well-known examples. And there are other combinations too. In Welsh, you would say, open child door, verb, subject, object. And if you were from Madagascar and spoke Malagasy, it'd be open door child, verb, object, subject. The point is that there are multiple ways for syntax to get the job done across languages. In the next lecture, we'll learn about the unique feature of syntax that allows for unlimited creativity within all languages. Next, we enter the world of semantics. In linguistics, semantics is the study of word meanings, or more technically, the study of symbols and their reference. So if you take any of the words in our sample sentence, you can look each one up in a dictionary and find its meaning. The semantic component is interesting for lots of reasons, but one of the most striking things is that the meaning of each word is traditionally defined by other words. This makes semantics an endless cycle of symbols referring back to themselves. However, later in this course, we'll also learn from neuroscience that word meanings can break free from this endless cycle. For example, the word hot may be defined by Webster's as having a relatively high temperature, a definition involving more words. But some neuroscientists argue that this understanding is much more concrete too. Recent research suggests that one way our brain understands the meaning of the word hot is by simulating the physical feeling of actually being hot. We'll come back to this, but I bring it up now just to show how our understanding of semantics has become more nuanced as the study of language has become more interdisciplinary. Another interesting thing that's often taken for granted is that linguistic symbols differ across languages. Some of this variation is in sheer number. One Korean dictionary lists over 1 million words, whereas Oxford's Classical Latin Dictionary has about 40,000 entries. As you may have experienced yourself, having different words for the same thing can be a real headache when you're trying to learn a new language. If you trekked across every country in Europe one summer, you'd have to learn over 35 words just to say that you are hot. And that's just one word. Connecting back to our theme of language as a system, the semantic component of language is notable for being a system within a system. There are different word types that have quite different properties. For example, have you ever heard of open and closed class words? Open class words form a category of words that can be changed, added, or removed from a language. In English, these are nouns, verbs, adverbs, and adjectives. In my lifetime, words like Davenport, meaning couch, and trousers, meaning pants, have faded into obscurity, and they may soon vanish for good. But words like email, Brexit, and cell phone have come into existence. In contrast, closed class words are words from a more fixed category that's not easily altered. In almost all languages, these are prepositions, articles, and pronouns. When's the last time you can think of someone making up a new preposition? Or what are the chances that an article like the will go out of style anytime soon? Actually, pronouns may be different. Words like I or you are rock solid, but currently pronouns like he and she may be changing. In American English, there is debate about whether he and she should be replaced by the gender-neutral they, or even a new word, z. It's an interesting time to be a pronoun. Not surprisingly, these closed and open class words are treated differently by the brain. In fact, if you eat your head just right, you might lose the ability to use closed class words, but not open class ones. The same is true even within word classes. Certain types of brain damage preserve nouns but wipe out verbs from a patient's language. There are systems within the system, and as you'll see, the brain is a window into all of them. The next component is morphology. This linguistic component is made up of morphemes, which are the smallest meaningful grammatical units of a language. Take our example, I'm getting really hot. The word hot is a single open-classed morpheme, but every other word in the sentence has two morphemes. I'm is a contraction of I and am. Getting is the verb stem get plus ing, which is how English indicates an activity happening in the present. And really is real plus ly, which is how English turns an adjective into an adverb. Note that ing and ly are closed class morphemes. You can't just come up with a new verb conjugation or a novel adverb suffix. You're stuck with the ones your language has. Languages vary in how many morphemes they pack into a word. English is pretty light on morphemes. Most words are maybe one or two, but occasionally you'll come across a word with many more. Here's a doozy: anti-disestablishmentarianism. This mouthful of morphemes was created in the 19th century Britain to protest attempts to remove the Church of England as the official state religion. By your count, how many morphemes does it have? The answer is 6. They are anti, dis, establish, ment, Aryan, and ism. If you think that's a lot, consider the Bantu language Kivunjo. In his book, The Language Instinct, Steven Pinker compares English morphology to checkers and Kivunjo morphology to chess. Check out this word that I will definitely mispronounce. Nakimilia. This word is roughly translated as, he is eating it for her. I'm not exactly sure the occasion one would have to say such a thing, but this 11-letter word contains 8 morphemes. The verb stem lyi, lia, means eat, and that comes near the end of the word. Other morphemes indicate tense, focus, and mood. I won't go through all of them, but I'll point out one that's very different from English. The second letter, A, with an umlaut above it, is a subject agreement marker. Kivunjo is a gendered language with 16 genders. Gender is a technical term in linguistics, and it means much more than just male or female as it does in French and Spanish. It means kind of thing. In this case, A refers to humans singular. Pinker explains that other gender markers in Kivunjo differentiate nouns that pertain to several humans, and even thin or extended objects, objects that come in pairs or clusters, or instruments, animals, body parts, not to mention other things like abstract qualities, precise locations, and general locales. And the list goes on. If you counted up all the Kivunjo words with the verb stem lia, eat, and all its morphological possibilities, that list would be over 500,000 words long. It's worth pointing out that with such complex morphology, Kivunjo can get away with very simple syntax. In fact, many sentences in the language are just one word long. Contrast that with English, which can have some very long and convoluted sentences. Ever read anything by David Foster Wallace? His syntax is on another level. This highlights an important point. The systems of morphology and the system of syntax are just two different ways to get the same job done. They both add complexity to meaning, but one does it within a word and the other does it